Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकरामह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषः शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 2, Daksa curses Lord Shiva. So we are in the section where Daksa is cursing Lord Shiva, calling out right from physical offense in the sense, right, pointing out something about the bodily, although Lord Shiva is one of the most beautiful personality, up to the activities which are actually the most glorious. Daksha is on the spree of continuous offenses. So we are at text 19. निषिध्यमानः स सदस्य मुख्यैर् दक्षो गिरित्राय विसृज्य शापम् तस्माद् विनिष्क्रम्य विवृद्धमन्युर्जगाम कौरव्यनिजं निकेतनम्. Translation.
Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, in spite of the request of all the members of the sacrificial assembly, Daksha, in great anger, cursed Lord Shiva and then left the assembly and went back to his home. Purport. Anger is so detrimental that even a great personality like Daksha, out of anger, left the arena where Brahma was presiding, and all the great sages and pious and saintly persons were assembled. All of them requested him not to leave, but infuriated, he left, thinking that the auspicious place was not fit for him. Puffed up by his exalted position, he thought that no one was greater than he in argument. It appears that all the members of the assembly, including Lord Brahma, requested him not to be angry and leave their company. But in spite of all these requests, he left. That is the effect of cruel anger. In Bhagavad Gita, therefore, it is advised that one who desires to make tangible advancement in spiritual consciousness must avoid three things: lust, anger, and more of passion. Actually, we can see that lust, anger, and passion make a man crazy, even though he may be as great as Daksha. The very name Daksha suggests that he was expert in all material activities, but still, because of his aversion towards such a saintly person as Shiva, he was attacked by these three enemies: anger, lust, and passion. Lord Chaitanya therefore advised that one be very careful not to offend Vaishnavas. He compared offenses towards a Vaishnava to a mad elephant. As a mad elephant can do anything horrible, so when a person offends a Vaishnava, he can perform any abominable action. Hare Krishna.
In spite of the requests by all the members of the sacrificial assembly, now Daksha extremely angry and he wanted to leave. And everybody was pleading to Daksha not to leave, not to leave. It is such an important sacrifice. There is Lord Brahmaji presiding over this sacrifice. He left the assembly and went back home. Right. So what did Daksha do? I mean, they say that he came, he saw, he conquered. Like Daksha came, he cursed, and he came back. That's it. That's what he do. So this is abhinivesha. Extreme self-absorption leads to this kind of a behavior. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, anger is very detrimental even to a great personality like Daksha. So we should never think that, we are beyond the three modes of material nature. And that is, in fact, one day when Acharya was explaining that whenever Maya wants to tighten her grip upon a living entity, initially, just like, when we want to tighten our grip, what we do? We first let loose and tighten the grip. So similarly, whenever, there is a chance thinking that, I am liberated or I am beyond all this, kama, krodha, lobha, it is like Maya is letting loose for a while so that she can have a tight grip over. So this was the sacrificial arena where Brahma was presiding, the great sages, all saintly persons were assembled, and everybody requested him not to leave, but Daksha left, thinking that this auspicious place is not fit for him. Now, this is very important that sometimes we may come across, certain things in ISKCON, certain happenings, we may be offended, or, we may be, because it's end of the day, people coming together, and in just like in any gathering, here you can see such auspicious gathering of Daksha attending, but there is always a chance of misunderstanding. But one should vow never to leave ISKCON, whatever come may. I will never leave shelter of Srila Prabhupada. I will never leave shelter of my spiritual master. And there's such beautiful Guru Shishya Parampara, the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and chanting the holy names. So, this is the resolve of a devotee. Puffed up by his exalted position, he thought that nobody understands me, and there is nobody equal to me in argument, and thus he left. So, end of the day, when we want to leave something, and say when we want to do something, we should take blessings from many great personalities, especially once Diksha Guru, Shiksha Guru, once those who are. So these are important things in one's life, senior Vaishnavas. And whenever we want to leave, and if some great people are requesting us not to leave, then we should surely reconsider. This is very important. Not that one is abruptly saying that no, no, I will not do. So it is just a whims and fancy of a person that he wants to do whatever he want to do. So Daksha, whenever he wanted to do yajna, he came there. Now everybody requesting him, he just left. And Prabhupada says these are the effects of cruel anger. And therefore Bhagavad Gita says, Trividham narakasya idam dwaram atmanashanaha kama krodha tatha lobhas tasmadetat triyam tejet. One has to be always conscious of kama, krodha, and lobha, the effect of lust, anger, and greed. And they can act on such a great personality as even as great as Daksha. So what happens because of effect of this? It leads to Vaiṣṇava-aparadha. And whenever there is a Vaiṣṇava-aparadha, Srila Prabhupada says, Lord Chaitanya has warned us that one should be very careful not to offend Vaishnavas. Kaya, vacha, manasa. Even in the speech or in the mind, one should never offend a Vaishnava. Because the Vaishnava aparad makes person into a mad elephant, and mad elephant can do anything horrible. And Prabhupada says this is the effect of Vaishnava aparad. And Daksha just left the place, and what happened to him, we are going to read in the future chapters. Text 20. Text 20 to 26, we come to the third section of this, where there is now the sequencing of the counter curse is now going to continue. Text 20. Vigyaya shapam girishanugranir nandishvaro roshaya kashaya dushitah dakshaya shapam visasarja darunam ye chanvamodas tadavachyatam dvijah. Translation.
Translation. Upon understanding that Lord Shiva had been cursed, Nandishvara, one of Lord Shiva's principal associates, became greatly angry. His eyes became red, and he prepared to curse Daksha and all the Brahmanas present there who had tolerated Daksha's cursing Shiva in harsh words. Purport. There is a long standing dissension among some of the neophyte Vaishnavas and Saivites. They are always at loggerheads. When Daksha cursed Lord Shiva in harsh words, some of the Brahmanas present might have enjoyed it because some Brahmanas do not very much admire Lord Shiva. This is due to their ignorance of Lord Shiva's position. Nandishvara was affected by the cursing, but he did not follow the example of Lord Shiva, who was also present there. Although Lord Shiva could also have cursed Daksha in a similar way, he was silent and tolerant. But Nandishvara, his follower, was not tolerant. Of course, as a follower, it was right for him not to tolerate an insult to his master, but he should not have cursed the Brahmanas who were present. The entire issue was so complicated that those who were not strong enough forgot their positions, and thus cursing and counter-cursing went on in that great assembly. In other words, the material field is so unsteady that even personalities like Nandishvara, Daksha, and many of the Brahmanas present were infected by the atmosphere of anger. Hare Krishna.
So when this was known to Nandishvara, Vigyaya Shapam, Girija, Anugragrani. So Anuja, one who is the Agrani of the followers of Lord Shiva, Nandishvara. So when we go to Shiva temple, we see Nandi there. So Nandi is not some mythical figure which is standing in front of Lord Shiva. He's a personality, Nandishvara. Nandishvara, Rosha Kashaya Dushitah. He became greatly angry. Dakshaya Shapam. He decided to curse Daksha. His eyes became red and prepared to curse Daksha. And not only Daksha, all the Brahmanas present there who had tolerated Daksha's cursing Lord Shiva. So now Nandishvara is arriving. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, there is amongst the neophyte Vaishnavas and neophyte Shaivites, there is a long-standing dissension, and they are always at the loggerheads. Think that, there are, of course, now not to comment on somebody, but there are people who will purposefully break a fast on Mahashivratri or something like that. And there are people who will purposefully break something on Ekadashi, and they are Shaivite, and they are Vaishnavite. Forgetting that Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambho, amongst the greatest of the Vaishnava is Lord Shiva. His own Rudra Sampradaya is there. And one of the big offenses is offending Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, who are themselves pure devotees of the Supreme Lord. But generally what happens is, when we become follower of something in a neophyte stage, we think that person is only great. Why? Because I am following him. I am great. I am great, and that's why that person is great, without realistic understanding. Mera Bharat Mahan. Why? Because I Mahan is born in such a Bharat. Therefore, Mera Bharat Mahan. So this is the very, very neophyte understanding of the people. And this is amongst Vaishnavas also and Shaivites also. And at times, we have seen so many examples of the Pandya king, and they are just against the Ramanujacharya preaching, and so many different things on that front. So Nandishvara was offended by this cursing. And Lord Shiva, he did not follow the example of Lord Shiva. He decided to counter curse. And in a way, he was also right, because as a follower, he should not have tolerated. At the same time, he should have also seen the behavior of his master. So what happens in such complicated situation? Prabhupada says the material field is so unsteady that such a complicated situation where there is always a possibility of getting implicated and affected, one should always come back to basics of Krishna consciousness. Like, especially you come to know that there is some fight between two senior Vaishnavas. There is some misunderstanding. There is some mood difference, mood mismatch. So let seniors fight. We don't have to get involved. We can just come back to basics. It is very important. It is the seniors, they will have their dissension fight, not some physical Malla Yuddha or Kushti they are going to do. It is like, the drishtikon, perception, and their mood and something like that. And they may have some heated argument. We don't have to get implicated in all that. It's very, very important. We should follow the basics of Krishna consciousness. I follow a simple rule that, when to get into controversy. Simple rule is, when the temple president requests you in writing to be part of this problem, you should be part of this problem on the local level. When the GBC of the zone requests you in writing that, Prabhuji, your expertise is required to solve this problem, you are most welcome, get into it. We should get into it. Otherwise, we should simply be happy remaining whatever Vaishnava we are and praying for the fighting parties. Okay, people senior to us may have their own dissension, may have their mood change, And with that mood change and with that so-called fight, they will go back home, back to Godhead. If we become part of it, we will rot in the material world. Correct. And all this lust, anger, greed will act very severely upon us. So now Nandishwara, so Prabhupada writes here, such great personalities as Nandishwara, Daksa, and many Brahmanas present were infected by the unsteady field of material activities. So this is, Maya. Maya is very strong. Srila Prabhupada used to say, my only regret is my followers are not sufficiently afraid of Maya. Right. So this is the activity. Text 21. य एतान् मर्त्यमुद्दिश्य भगवत्या अप्रतिद्रुहि दुह्यति अज्ञः पृथक् दृष्टिस् तत्वतो विमुखो भवेत्. Translation.
Anyone who has accepted Daksha as the most important personality and neglected Lord Shiva because of envy is less intelligent, and because of visualizing in duality will be bereft of transcendental knowledge. Purport. The first curse by Nandishvara was that anyone supporting Daksha was foolishly identifying himself with the body, and therefore, because Daksha had no transcendental knowledge, supporting him would deprive one of transcendental knowledge. Daksha, Nandishvara said, identified himself with the body like other materialistic persons and was trying to derive all kinds of facilities in relationship with the body. He had excessive attachment for the body and in relation to the body, with wife, children, home, and other such things which are different from the soul. Therefore, Nandishvara's curse was that anyone who supported Daksha would be bereft of transcendental knowledge of the soul, and thus also be deprived of knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Anyone who accepted Daksha as more important than Lord Shiva. Daksha is speaking in such horrible language. Right. It's a very, very civilized assembly, great assembly, august assembly. And there Daksha is cursing in such crap language, Markatalochana, and what kind of words he is using for Lord Shiva. Nandishwara became extremely angry, and he was right in doing so. The authority whether he had, that was the another thing. Correct. Sometimes we are right, but sometimes we not be authorized to do something. People say that Prabhuji, Arjuna fought against the Anyaya. Arjuna fought against the Anyaya. He was right, but he was also authorized because he was, the king himself. And that time the king also had the Nyaya department under him. So along with this, he was authorized to fight also. Right. So, and Daksha's and Nandishwara's calculation was right. He said that you are thinking Daksha to be more important than Lord Shiva because you are simply enamored by the bodily identification. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, just like when Daksha entered, it's entered as if like the sun arising. Everybody was minimized to in presence, and Daksha just chha gaye on the assembly like that it was. And everybody was like enamored by presence of Daksha, and it was the bodily identification. And now Nandishwara says, the first curse is that you will be bereft of the transcendental knowledge of the soul and the super soul, and you will be simply wrought in the bodily understanding for not offending Lord Shiva, for tolerating the offense of Lord Shiva. Text 22. Nice verse. We will recite this. Gruheshu kuta dharmeshu
Gruheshu kuta dharmeshu
sakto gramya sukhechaya
Sakto gramya
sakto gramya
sukhechaya
sukhechaya
dharmatantram vitanute
karmatantram
karmatantram vitanute
vedavada vipannadhi.
vedavada
Vedavada
vipannati.
Translation.
pretentiously religious householder life in which one is attracted to material happiness and thus also attracted to the superficial explanation of the Vedas robs one of all intelligence and attaches one to fruitive activities as all in all. Purport. Persons who identify with bodily existence are attached to the fruitive activities described in the Vedic literature. For example, in Vedas, it is said that one who observes the Chaturmasya vow will attain eternal happiness in the heavenly kingdom. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that this flowery language of the Vedas mostly attracts persons who identify with the body. To them, such happiness as that of the heavenly kingdom is everything. They do not know that beyond that is the spiritual kingdom or kingdom of God, and they have no knowledge that one can go there. Thus, they are bereft of transcendental knowledge. Such persons are very careful in observing the rules and regulations of household life in order to be promoted in the next life to the moon or other heavenly planets. It is stated here that such persons are attached to Brahmasuk, which means material happiness, without knowledge of eternal blissful spiritual life.
Yeah. So now uh, he continue the curse. So we will see the explanation of this tomorrow. I need to slightly close early. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki
Jai.
jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhupada. Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Prabhuji.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, everyone.
Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.